The sun was just beginning to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the dusty streets of Nazareth. I, a simple carpenter named Ezra, was putting away my tools for the day when a commotion at the town well caught my attention. A group of villagers had gathered, their voices a mix of excitement and concern. As I approached, I saw Hero. Mary, a young woman known for her piety and kindness, was at the center of the crowd. Her eyes were wide with a mix of fear and wonder, her hands trembling as she held onto a clay pot. "I saw him," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the murmurs of the crowd. "The Messiah, in a vision. He spoke to me." The crowd hushed, the weight of her words hanging in the air like the evening mist. I felt a chill run down my spine, not from the cooling air, but from the gravity of what she claimed. Mary's gaze met mine, and in that moment, I saw not just fear, but a profound conviction. She continued, her voice gaining strength. "He told me I would bear a son who will lead us to salvation." A murmur of disbelief rippled through the onlookers. How could this be? Mary was not yet married, and her betrothed, Joseph, was away on business. The implications were scandalous. Yet there was something about her certainty that made me pause. As the crowd began to disperse, their skepticism evident in their hurried steps and whispered doubts, I lingered. Mary approached me, her eyes searching mine for understanding or perhaps judgment. "Ezra," she said, her voice steady now. "I know what this sounds like, but I need someone to believe me, to help me understand what this means for me, for all of us." Her plea struck a chord within me. Here was a woman alone in her extraordinary claim, yet filled with a purpose that seemed to transcend her own life. I felt an urge, a calling almost, to delve into this mystery, to find motivation in her faith, and perhaps to discover my own path in the shadow of this divine promise. What could this mean for our small village, for me? Could Mary's vision truly be a beacon of hope in these troubled times? The questions swirled in my mind as I looked at her, seeing not just the fear, but the unwavering faith in her eyes. I nodded slowly, the weight of Mary's words settling in my heart. "I believe you, Mary," I said, my voice firm with a newfound resolve. "Let's find out together what this means." The next morning, the village was abuzz with the news of Mary's vision. As I walked through the market, I could feel the eyes of the villagers on me, their whispers following like the tail of a comet. Some looked at me with curiosity, others with skepticism. I knew that by standing with Mary, I was stepping into a storm of controversy. At the carpenter's shop, my father Eli greeted me with a furrowed brow. "Ezra, what's this I hear about Mary and her vision?" His voice was laced with concern, not just for the village's reaction, but for me. "Father, she believes she's been chosen for something great," I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. "I feel it's my duty to help her, to understand what this could mean for us." Eli sighed, his hands resting on the workbench where we had crafted so many things together. "Be careful, son. The path you're choosing might not be an easy one. People fear what they don't understand." His words echoed in my mind as I worked through the day, the rhythmic sound of wood being shaped under my hands providing a semblance of normalcy. Yet the normalcy was deceptive. Beneath it, a current of change was flowing, pulling me towards an unknown destiny. Later, as the sun climbed high, I met Mary at the edge of the village where the fields began. She was there, her silhouette against the golden wheat, looking out over the land with a serene expression. "I've been thinking, Ezra," she said as I approached, her voice carrying a quiet strength. "This isn't just about me. It's about all of us. If what I saw is true, we're on the cusp of something monumental." I nodded, feeling the gravity of her words. "We need to seek guidance, Mary. Perhaps the elders, or even a journey to Jerusalem to speak with the priests?" Her eyes lit up with hope. "Yes, guidance. And perhaps through this, you might find your own path, Ezra, your own purpose in this divine plan." The idea of a journey, of leaving the familiarity of Nazareth, stirred something within me. It wasn't just about Mary's vision anymore. It was about my own journey, my own search for meaning in a world that seemed to be shifting under my feet. As we planned our next steps, the day's work called me back. Yet the seeds of motivation had been planted. I returned to my tools, but my mind was elsewhere, contemplating the journey ahead, the challenges we might face, and the small yet significant role I could play in what might unfold. The motivation wasn't just to support Mary, but to find my own place in the grand tapestry of this divine narrative. The days following Mary's revelation were filled with a tension that was palpable. As I worked in my shop, the whispers of the villagers grew louder, their eyes casting judgment not just on Mary, but on me for standing by her. The once friendly greetings turned into cold nods, and the marketplace, which was usually bustling with laughter and chatter, now felt like a place of silent accusation. One evening as the sun set, casting an orange glow over the village, I found myself at Mary's modest home. She was sitting outside, her hands gently weaving a basket, her face a mask of serenity amidst the storm of rumors. "Ezra," she greeted, her voice soft but firm. "I've been thinking about our journey to Jerusalem. It's not just the physical distance that concerns me, but the journey we must take in our hearts and minds." I sat beside her, the cool evening air a stark contrast to the heat of the day. "I agree, Mary. We need to prepare ourselves for what lies ahead. Not just the journey, but the reception we might receive." Mary's eyes met mine, filled with a resolve that seemed to strengthen by the day. "I've been praying, Ezra, for guidance, for strength, and I feel we must also prepare for the possibility that not all will welcome this news. We might face opposition, even danger." Her words were like a cold splash of reality. The path we were choosing was fraught with peril. "We'll need allies, Mary. People who believe in your vision, who can help us navigate through this." She nodded, her fingers pausing in their weaving. "I've spoken with my cousin, Elizabeth. She believes me, Ezra. She's with child too, and she says it's a sign from God. Perhaps she can help us understand more." The mention of Elizabeth sparked a flicker of hope. If Mary's vision was true, then perhaps her cousin's situation was another piece of the divine puzzle. We should visit her then. Maybe she can offer us more insight, or at least some comfort. The next morning I approached my father with our plan. His face was lined with worry, his usual warmth replaced by a cautious concern. "Ezra, are you sure about this? Jerusalem is far, and the road there is not safe. And what of the priests? They might not take kindly to such claims." "I know, Father," I replied, feeling the weight of his concerns, "but Mary needs this. And I feel I need it too, to find out if there's truth in what she says, to find my own path in all this." Eli looked at me, his eyes searching mine for a moment before he sighed deeply. "Then go with my blessing, son. But remember, the world outside Nazareth isn't as forgiving. Keep your faith, but also keep your wits about you." With his blessing, Mary and I set out early the next day, our journey to Elizabeth's home in the hill country of Judea, beginning under the first light of dawn. The path was rugged, the terrain unforgiving, and as we walked, the reality of our undertaking settled in. We encountered travelers, some curious about our journey, others wary. A group of merchants, recognizing us from Nazareth, questioned our purpose. "Why venture so far?" one asked, his voice tinged with skepticism. Mary, with a grace that seemed to grow with each challenge, answered, "We seek guidance to understand a divine promise." The merchants exchanged looks, their expressions unreadable. "Be careful," one finally said. "Not all who walk these roads seek the truth." Their warning echoed in my mind as we continued, the landscape changing from the familiar hills of Galilee to the more arid, rocky paths of Judea. Each step was a testament to our commitment, each mile a challenge to our resolve. As we neared Elizabeth's home, the tension between us was palpable. What would we find? Would her belief in Mary's vision hold, or would it crumble under the scrutiny of reality? The anticipation of meeting someone who might share in Mary's divine experience was both a beacon of hope and a source of anxiety. The sun was setting when we finally saw Elizabeth's house, a small, humble dwelling nestled among the hills. Mary's pace quickened, her face lighting up with a mixture of relief and excitement. As we approached, Elizabeth, her figure swollen with child, stepped out, her eyes wide with recognition and joy. "Mary," she exclaimed, her voice echoing across the quiet hills, "blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb." The greeting was like a balm to our weary souls, a confirmation that we were not alone in this extraordinary journey. But even as relief washed over us, I knew this was just the beginning. The road ahead was long, fraught with challenges we could only guess at. Yet standing there with Mary and Elizabeth, I felt a surge of motivation, a resolve to see this through, not just for Mary, but for the hope it represented for all of us. As Elizabeth's joyful greeting echoed through the hills, a sense of divine confirmation enveloped us. Her words, filled with such conviction, seemed to resonate with the very air around us, affirming Mary's vision in a way that words alone could not. Yet, as the initial wave of relief subsided, the weight of our mission settled back upon my shoulders. Elizabeth invited us into her home, where the warmth of the hearth contrasted sharply with the cooling evening outside. Inside, the atmosphere was one of quiet anticipation. Elizabeth, her face glowing with a serene light, gestured for us to sit. "Mary, Ezra, I've been expecting you," she said, her voice carrying a note of prophecy. "The Lord has revealed much to me in my solitude." Mary, her eyes still bright with the encounter, nodded. "Elizabeth, your belief strengthens me, but we've come seeking more than just confirmation. We need guidance, wisdom on how to proceed." Elizabeth's gaze was thoughtful, her hands resting on her swollen belly. "The path you've chosen is not just about bearing a child, Mary. It's about bearing hope, faith, and the courage to face what's to come. And Ezra," she turned to me, "your role in this divine narrative is no less significant. You are to be a pillar of support, a beacon of motivation for those who will doubt." Her words struck a chord within me, igniting a fire of purpose. "I understand, Elizabeth, but how do we navigate the skepticism, the danger that might lie ahead?" Elizabeth's expression grew serious. "The journey to Jerusalem will not be easy. The priests might not welcome your news with open arms. They guard their interpretations of Scripture closely, and your message could be seen as a challenge to their authority." Mary's hand found mine, squeezing gently. "Then what should we do? How do we make them see the truth?" "Faith, dear ones, is not just about seeing," Elizabeth replied, her voice soft yet firm. "It's about believing when the path is obscured. You must go to Jerusalem not to convince, but to bear witness. Your journey will inspire others, even if they do not understand it first." The room fell silent, the gravity of her advice hanging between us. I felt the weight of responsibility, not just for Mary, but for the message we carried. We'll need to prepare then, not just for the physical journey, but for the spiritual battle ahead. Elizabeth nodded. "Yes, and remember, you are not alone. There are others out there waiting for this message, for this hope. Your journey will light the way for them." As night deepened, we discussed our plans. Elizabeth shared stories of her own visions, of angels and divine promises, which only served to solidify our resolve. We decided that before heading to Jerusalem, we would visit the local elders in Judea, seeking their blessing or at least their neutrality. The next morning, after a night filled with both rest and restless thoughts, we set out for the elders' council. The path was steep, the sun relentless, mirroring the challenges we anticipated. As we approached the council, a group of stern-faced men awaited us, their expressions unreadable. Mary, with a courage that seemed to grow with each step, stepped forward. "Elders of Judea, I come before you not to seek approval, but to share a divine vision, a promise of salvation for all." The elders murmured among themselves, their eyes scrutinizing us. One, with a beard as white as the clouds above, finally spoke. "Mary of Nazareth, your claim is extraordinary. What proof do you offer of this divine promise?" Mary took a deep breath, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "I have no tangible proof, elders, except for the conviction in my heart and the words spoken to me by an angel. But I ask you, have not the prophets of old spoken of such signs and wonders? Have we not been taught to trust in the unseen, to believe in the promises of God?" The elder with the white beard leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Faith is indeed powerful, but it must be coupled with wisdom. Your journey to Jerusalem could bring upon you not just skepticism, but persecution. Are you prepared for that?" "I am," Mary replied, her voice unwavering. "For this is not my will, but his. And Ezra here stands with me, not just as a companion, but as a witness to the truth I carry." The elders exchanged looks, their face softening slightly. "Very well," the elder finally said. "We will not hinder your journey, but nor can we offer our full endorsement. Go with caution, and may the God of our fathers guide you." With a nod of gratitude, we left the council, the weight of their words heavy on our shoulders. The path to Jerusalem was now clear, but the journey was anything but simple. As we walked, the landscape grew harsher, the sun more unforgiving. Each step seemed to echo with the doubts of the elders, the skepticism of the villagers, and the silent prayers of our own hearts. The road was long, and with each mile, the reality of our mission became more palpable. Days turned into nights under the stars, and our conversations deepened, filled with scripture, hope, and the occasional fear. One evening, as we sat by a small fire, Mary looked at me, her eyes reflecting the flickering flames. "Ezra, do you ever doubt?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I paused, considering her question. "I have moments of doubt, Mary, but when I look at you, at the peace that surrounds you despite everything, my faith is renewed. Your strength is my motivation." She smiled, a gentle, knowing smile. "We are in this together, Ezra. Our journey is not just about me or the child I will bear. It's about all who will come after, who will need to believe in something greater than themselves." The next day, as we approached Jerusalem, the city loomed large, its walls a testament to both protection and division. The closer we got, the more my heart pounded with a mix of fear and excitement. The city was bustling, a stark contrast to the quiet of Nazareth, filled with people from all walks of life, each with their own stories, their own struggles. We made our way to the temple, the heart of Jerusalem, where the priests held court. The atmosphere was charged with the solemnity of worship and the murmur of countless prayers. Mary, with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly, approached the priests who were in deep discussion. "Honored priests," she began, her voice clear and resonant, "I bring before you a message from God, a vision of the Messiah's coming." The priests turned, their expressions ranging from curiosity to skepticism. One, an older man with a stern face, stepped forward. "A vision, you say? Many claim divine messages, young woman. What makes yours worthy of our attention?" Mary's response was calm, her faith unshaken. "It is not for my worthiness, but for the glory of God. I was told I would bear a son who will be called Jesus, and he will save his people from their sins." The priest's eyes narrowed and his gaze piercing through the crowd that had gathered around us. "And what proof do you offer of this divine promise?" he asked, his voice echoing slightly in the vastness of the temple. Mary's response was serene, her voice carrying a weight that seemed to resonate with the very stones of the sacred space. "The proof, honored priest, is in the faith that has been placed in my heart, and in the lives that will be touched by this message. I ask not for your belief, but for your consideration. For the truth of God's word often begins with a whisper before it becomes a shout." The priest paused, his expression softening as he considered her words. Around us, the murmurs of the crowd grew, some in disbelief, others in wonder. He finally spoke, his voice lower, more contemplative. "You speak with conviction, Mary of Nazareth. We shall not dismiss your claim outright, but we must seek wisdom in this matter. Return to us in 3 days, and we will have our answer." With a nod of acknowledgement, we stepped back, the weight of the moment still heavy upon us. As we left the temple, the city of Jerusalem seemed to pulse with life, its energy and vibrancy surrounding us. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.